Alright, what's up guys, it's KOSDFF here, and today we're going to be doing another story video. Now I was actually up late last night thinking about what I could talk about because I kind of got it in my mind that I wanted to do one of these today. And you know, I was trying to think of what parts of my life haven't I told you guys a whole lot about. You guys know everything, you know, after college. I told you guys a lot of college stories. I've told you guys a lot of stories about when I lived in Sydney, Australia. And I believe I did a couple stories about when I was a part of this Asian gang, or Korean gang more specifically, called SCUF. It was like this little mall punk gang that I belonged to in Australia when I was like 14, 15. We used to hang out in a mall called Chatswood, so if you're from North Sydney, you've definitely probably heard of it. And plus I wanted to get on here and play more Modern Warfare because I actually really enjoy this game. So I think the only other video I ever made about SCUF was this video called Asian Gang Training. I don't actually remember the whole name. It was basically me telling you guys a story about how all my SCUF like gang members or whatever invited me over to this house, and then they just proceeded to beat the crap out of me, and they called it gang training. So if you guys want to go look that up. And I felt like that kind of made me seem pretty tough, you know? I was inner city kid learning how to fight with all these like wannabe gangsters and stuff like that. So I figured I'd tell you the opposite story because I feel like, you know, I'm a pretty street smart guy. You know, I'm definitely not a dude that's afraid to fight, so I'm not like a big scary kid or anything like that. But this is definitely not how I was born. You know, these were learned behaviors. And I don't think I ever told you guys really how I... Look at this asshole. What? Ha! Gravity's a bitch. Jugs in 2019? Really? And last stand? Alright, so basically I wanted to tell you guys about all the times I've been robbed. Really, last night I was thinking about telling you the story about one time I got robbed, and as more as I thought about it, was trying to remember like the time period, I actually have been robbed quite a few times. And not by like other gangs or street kids or like undesirables, by my own gang. Every now and then I kind of forget that, you know, during this time period, I was really an outsider for more than one reason. You know, I've had a very Asian upbringing. You know, I'm half Chinese. We have a really close relationship with my mom's side of the family. So every Christmas, Thanksgiving, you know, holiday, I go places and everyone's Chinese. So sometimes I forget that although I am half Chinese, I don't exactly look Asian. And this made me kind of a target a lot of the times whenever I was hanging out with a bunch of Asian youths. Now again, you know, this is when I was 14 and 15, so this is a story about a bunch of really dumb kids. That way, God, it's this guy again. I had to shoot this guy 3 times. And more often than not, my mom would agree with you that I would always put myself in these situations where it was just like, oh, why were you even there? It's so dumb to even be in these kinds of situations. But yeah, no, so I belonged to a little Korean gang, hung out in a mall, and really the only thing we ever did was, you know, just walk around together so we wouldn't get messed with. I think a couple kids like used to steal cell phones. You know, it wasn't like they were hardcore drug dealers or anything like that. But, you know, they were good at kind of like strong arm robbery. And it was not like adults or tourists or anything like that. They'd basically just rob little kids, you know, just talking to them. As much as I'd like to say that I fought the good fight and I didn't let, you know, people just pick on me and take my shit. No, there was like a solid 3 or 4 times where I got robbed, just straight up robbed. And you know, I was a dumb kid, so I didn't really like see it as that. I almost just saw it as kind of like hazing, or like these older gang members were just kind of giving me a hard time. But no, it's because I was a half Asian, white-looking American, you know, trying to fit in with a bunch of Korean gangsters in Chatswood. You can just imagine how that would never work out. Should have had that one. God, I really miss the sniper in this game. How did I get that one? So the first 2 times I'm going to tell you about is really, it didn't really get robbed. It was more like I got tricked and I just didn't see it coming. So I used to hang out in Chatswood, and we had basically like a hierarchy system. So I was like a number 5, and my Dai-Lo, which is like older brother, I believe in Korean, was a level 4. But most of the time we'd end up hanging out with like the level 2 or level 1 guys because they were the leaders. So the first time involved kind of like this leader guy. So we actually had to go into the city one day from Chatswood because that was like our home turf. But we had to go to a meeting where we would meet like the real gangsters and go into the city and meet the guys that are actually freaking criminals, and they were always super scary with long hair with like blonde streaks in it, and they'd have like long fingernails, and they didn't have face tattoos or anything. That wasn't popular back then, but they'd have tattoos and stuff like that, and it was always super scary. So much so that the leader of my little, I guess, mini organization within the bigger gang was actually kind of frightened to go too, and he was kind of like a broke kid as well. Like a lot of these kids that I'm going to talk about that are in these gangs had been sent to Australia by their parents for the Western education. So they were living off nothing, living in tiny apartments, usually with their older brother because the parents had to stay in Korea or in China or in Asia, basically. So we had to go to this meeting, and our leader, I forgot his last name because it was probably fake, but his name was John. He only had sandals. Like, he literally just had some flip-flops on, and he didn't want to go to this meeting without wearing shoes. And I was wearing these brand new, like, Adidas 3-stripe shoes. Now, this is like, 15, 18 years, I know this is gonna make me sound really old. It was like 15, 18 years ago, somewhere around there. Where these shoes had just dropped. They were super popular, like the flat bottom Adidas shoes with the 3 like blue stripes. And I was actually super stoked to get on. Now I don't remember if they were real, because we used to go to these like black markets with my family, called like Paddy's Market and stuff like that in Australia. And they'd have a whole bunch of fake stuff, and it was a lot cheaper. So I'm not sure if they were real or not. But John actually got me to trade him shoes to go to this meeting, because he obviously didn't want to look like a scrub. So I gave him my shoes and I wore his flip-flops. Now, of course, we go to the meeting and they're all super scary and they're hanging out in this, I want to say it was like an internet cafe, which was the really popular hangouts for Asian kids in Sydney. And as soon as we got there, of course they gave everyone, shit basically, because he showed up with a bunch of kids. Although it was a Korean gang, not every member was Korean. There was a lot of like Lebanese kids in there. It was just, I don't know, they basically gave John a hard time. So as soon as we got there, we got shooed away. Like, we went in there, we said hi to everyone, we bowed, we gave all our respects, and then we got kicked out. So now I'm outside of the building in my sandals, and I don't have, what the fuck? I don't have my shoes. And then like I was like, all right, screw it. I know John, I see him every day. I'll get my shoes back the next day. And I showed up the next day and he was wearing them. And he didn't want to give them back because he said he didn't have any other shoes. And then yeah, eventually he just never gave them back to me. So that was kind of like the first time I didn't really realize, but I probably should have started to realize that these kids were just going to take advantage of me. The second time was very similar. So there was another like leader, gang member, whatever, that came to Chatswood to hang out with us. And I think it was like to audit our group, as funny as that sounds, to kind of like see how our little subsection of the gang was doing. And I had these really cool sunglasses. Now they were basically like Oakley knockoffs, because we had gotten them at the black market. And this guy was super scary. He didn't even speak English, and he was bald. That's really all I remember about him. And he was short, but he looked like a street kid. He looked like someone that had never like lived indoors. And it was really bright out when we were walking around the city, so he asked to borrow my sunglasses. And of course, he was my, higher gang member, so of course I had to give it to him. So I gave him my sunglasses, and that was it. Like I never saw them again. I never got to wear them again. I never even saw him again. I just was out a pair of sunglasses. Now, if this wasn't enough of a red flag to me that I was hanging out with the wrong kind of people, this next one definitely was. Of course, I didn't get the message because I never really felt like I stuck out. The reason why I was telling you about the whole me not really realizing that I'm not like full-blooded Chinese and don't look Asian. I feel Asian, but I don't look Asian. The second time we were hanging out in Chatswood, and then there was these two members from, I don't remember where they were from, but they were from like another smaller subsection of the gang from another city. And they used to come hang out with us really all the time, so I really wasn't ever like suspicious that they were gonna do anything to me, but they came up to meet us one evening, and I was like just about to leave. So they came to say hi, and then I was like, all right, I gotta get on the train and go home because I think I had to get back for dinner or something like that. Again, the same gang members in city and all this stuff, you might forget that I'm 14, 15 in these scenarios. I mean, these guys are definitely strapped. This is like the first time I got strong arm robbed, basically. So I was sitting at the train. I'd already left like the group of people that were hanging out in front of the internet cafe. And I was sitting on the train, and these two dudes, I believe they were like Lebanese. That should have been, is that a collat? No. And they came up and they sat on either side of me. Now, this kind of makes me sound like a giant wussy because I probably, oh God. I probably should have like stuck up for myself because they probably wouldn't have done anything. I slowly learned over my time in cities that most of these guys were all talk. Obviously, nobody wants to get in trouble, so they would just like talk to you, and most of the times you would just fall for it. And I was 14 or 15, and I feel like most 14, 15-year-olds, they don't really want to fight, depending, I guess, where you're raised. But most people would do just about anything to avoid a fight, and I was the same way. And they pulled the I have a knife in my pocket scheme. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. So without even seeing the knife, I got robbed. That's how much of a wuss I guess I was. So they sat on either side of me, and one of them basically said he had a knife in his pocket and then he was going to take it out and stab me unless I gave him my phone. So this is also from a time where cell phones really didn't have specific carriers. You'd have a SIM card and you could take it in and out of just about any phone. And as soon as you'd put the SIM card in the phone, it was your phone from then on. So they came over and they were like, yeah, you know, give us your phone, your wallet, or we're gonna take this knife out and stab you. And of course I'm a little kid, so I just reached in my pocket and gave him the shit. Now of course I asked for my SIM card back and they gave it back to me, which was robbery etiquette back in the day. So if they were gonna rob you, they were at least gonna give you your SIM card back. They ended up taking my wallet too. Which I think all I had in it was maybe like $5, like a $5 note, some coins, and believe it or not, a condom. Because the only reason why I remember that is they made fun of me. I was a virgin at the time, so I don't know why I had that. But yeah, no, they took my shit, they took my condom, they made jokes of me, and then they ended up giving me, I think, a $2 coin back so that I could take the train home, because obviously they didn't want me stuck there going to tell the police or anything, and they definitely didn't want me to fight back or do anything, so they had to produce this knife, because there's cameras everywhere. So this is the kind of robberies they would pull, because we were hanging out in a mall that literally did have cameras absolutely everywhere. So if it looked like anything was going wrong, you know, the police would come, or at least, you know, if I went home and snitched on these kids to my parents, they could go back and look at the cameras and see that these kids robbed me and that was a serious crime and they could get into trouble. Instead of it looking like just two kids talking and one of them just handed over their cell phone. So yeah, no, never got that back. And you know, you would think after an experience like that, I would stop hanging out with these kids, but no, I didn't see it as that. I just shrugged it off my shoulders, and I like wanted to hang out with these guys. I wanted to fit in. You know, I really did enjoy going to Chatswood and hanging, you know, and having all these guys around me so that I would never have to worry about getting robbed. But it's funny that, you know, looking back on it, the people I got robbed by were my own gang members. And, you know, we never did any robbing. You know, look at me. I mean, I don't look intimidating. If you think I had a baby face now and the dimples and stuff, like 13, 14-year-old me looked equally as, you know, non-threatening. You know, I only have 9 kills. I felt like I have way more. This is like my favorite map, and I'm getting doo-dooed on. Now, this is really the only times I can really, oh shit, damn it. I can really only remember being robbed in Australia. Now, there was other times that I got robbed, but it wasn't from like Asian gangsters. It wasn't from these Singhua guys, because I eventually stopped hanging out with them because they got me in trouble. I think I did another video where basically they tricked me into bringing one of my rich, you know, private school friends to Chatswood, and they robbed him, and he didn't take it standing down. I mean, he did get robbed. He didn't fight back or anything like that. He was a giant wuss just like I was. But he went home and told his parents, and his parents are super rich, and they brought up a stink with the school, and there was like an investigation. No police were involved, but like the school did an investigation. I ended up getting suspended. So I ended up stopped hanging out with those kids, and I started hanging out with the Australian kids. And really, I was mainly friends with a guy named John Mitchell. He was this Canadian guy. So I slowly realized that I couldn't really hang out with the Asian kids because I just didn't fit in. I just didn't belong. And no matter how cool I was or nice I was or how good of friends I was with a lot of these people, because you know it was just the outsiders. So if you're listening to these stories, you can tell like it was always the kids that were in the gang but from another section that would come over and kind of rob me, and they would pick on me because I looked so out of place. But the other time was I never really got robbed, but I used to get picked on. So there was definitely a tougher kid that used to hang out with this group of kids. And they were like the cool kids. They went out partying. This was like when I discovered drinking and going out in like field parties and stuff like that. And there was this guy, I can't remember his name. No, okay, it's coming back. Clayton? No, Clinton, maybe. I actually forget his name. But he had a hard-on for me. He used to pick on me all the time. He used to come up to me literally every time we'd hang out and ask to borrow my phone. And I'd give him my phone, and he'd be like, well, that was easy. And then he would keep it for a few hours before the girls in the group, who I later found out a lot of them had a crush on me because I was cute, made him give the phone back because he had a crush on one of them, and you know they would use that against him to keep him in line. So there was a few times that I lost my phone there. So by the time I came back from Sydney, I do believe I had a fair amount of street smarts. You know, I wasn't falling for any of that shit anymore. I definitely learned to somewhat stick up for myself. Not there though, because those inner city kids, they scared the shit out of me. But when I got back to America and kids would try to strong arm me in some freaking high school or on a yellow school bus, I was, what? I'm not scared of you people at all. And that's when I kind of developed my ability to, you know, stick up for myself. Now, of course, I'm, you know, 5'11", weigh 150, 60, 70 pounds, so I wasn't much of a fighter. If you're older and you're looking back on your teen years, most of fighting wasn't really about your ability to fight. It was just your willingness to fight or your ability to talk crap about before getting into a fight. But that didn't stop me from getting robbed. There was a few times where I think I got robbed by a kid named Devin Killian. But not really him, because he was a scrawny little shit. It was his friend. So like, it was a couple times he'd call me to hang out, and I would go pick him up, and him and some sketchy dude would climb in the back of my car, and they would take something from my car. So I think the first thing I got robbed for back in America was I had a component speaker, or a component amp, because I was really into car stereos. I had a JL, I think 500 by 4 to power my door speakers, except for it wasn't working, or it had broke, or some connection in the line, because I did all my own installations, so I'm sure I just made a mistake somewhere. So I had it sitting in my back seat, and they just took it. They got out of the car and was like, fuck you, and they had a bottle of, like, I believe Grey Goose, because these were like rich kids. I got robbed by rich kids. This is making me sound like a giant wussy. But yeah, they were like, you know, I'm gonna hit you with this bottle and all this stuff, and I was just like, whatever. And I had my friend JD with me, I believe, and he was another suburbs kid, so he wasn't gonna fight back. So they took my amp. It happens. Another time I got robbed, I actually got pistol whipped. I believe I did a story video about that. I'm not sure if I did. I'm not gonna tell the details of that just because it's not a good story. But yeah, no, I got tricked into going over to some girl's house. And as soon as I got there, they blocked my car, and some kid pulled a gun on me and pulled me out of my car and then pistol whipped me. So yeah, last night I was thinking about literally just telling the story about the two guys who sat on either side of me and did the whole I got my knife in my pocket trick. And I started thinking, I was like, damn, I've been robbed a lot. Like, more times than I'm probably even remembering. Like, if I really thought about it, I bet there's a few other times where people just stole my shit, like, right to my face, and it just happened. And I kind of feel like I owed it to you guys, because I've told a lot of these story videos about me getting in fights, you know, me in the Asian gang, you know, learning to fight and all this stuff, and it kind of made me sound like a tough kid, and I feel like I might have omitted all the times I just got straight up tricked, because it wasn't even like robbing. So like in Australia they called it rolling, so you would get rolled. And it's basically where you go over there and with just using your words and flex, trick a guy into giving you all of his shit without ever having to do anything. And they would pull it on, you know, the older kids would pull it on just about anyone that would come to the mall, and that was kind of like how they got extra cash. And, you know, and to the naked eye, it looked like just two kids hanging out. And they would steal their skateboards and their wallets and stuff like that. Actually, I take that back. They wouldn't take their wallets. Nobody in the inner city actually kept their cash in their wallet. They keep it in their sock. Or anything like that. If you're an inner city kid, please comment and back me up on that. Oh shit. You would never actually keep your cash in your wallet, because that was just asking for it. You'd keep it in like in your waistband or in your sock or some stuff like that. So no, it's tough guy cost that you might have gotten from all these story videos. It's not exactly the truth, or if it is the truth, it was a learned behavior over time. I definitely I don't believe people are inherently violent or inherently tough guys or inherently just have hella street smarts, unless, you know, depending on where they were raised. I was definitely a product of my environment. And even then, I really wouldn't consider myself someone that would even really stick up for himself until I got back to America, and the people that were trying to pick on me were just nowhere near the same level of the kids I was used to being picked on. So I didn't take them seriously, and that's when I learned that really, if I just talked the talk, wasn't afraid to fight, or if it really got down to it, just throw the first punch, then I probably wouldn't get in as much trouble as far as like getting picked on or getting robbed. Because, you know, I am a guy that's moved around like every 2 years of his entire life for my dad's work, and then obviously like during school, it's just, I'm like a professional new kid, you know, and I'm half Asian, and I lived in a different country, and I was American, so like I've always had very obvious ways to get picked on. Now, of course, I overcame it, so this story has a happy ending. Now, you know, I eventually got to the point where I could stick up for myself. I really wasn't ever intimidated by any situation, besides the guy who pistol whipped me. When a gun got produced, yeah, no. Actually, twice I've had a gun pulled on me. 3 times. You know, those were intimidating situations, but not because I was afraid of getting shot. I was more afraid of the guy who was obviously really scared of what he might do too, because these kids holding the guns, you know, they're shaking. You know, they're kind of afraid of the situation. Adrenaline's rushing. I was more afraid that they'd make a mistake and accidentally hurt me, and everything I had on me or I would get robbed for was replaceable, like a phone, 20 bucks, you know, a broken amp. I wasn't really worried about losing that stuff, so I just gave it up. All the other times I got in fights were really just ego fights, like kids in high school, you know, that didn't like you and just wanted to fight. You weren't getting robbed. That really wasn't the MO or the main, you know, the main objective. Especially because in the South, I don't know how it is in the North where kids just get jumped. When I moved back to the South, you know, fights weren't like go jump a kid in a bathroom. They were arranged things after school where they would form a whole circle around you and it'd be a one-on-one, and the crowd would kind of referee the fight, make sure there was no choking or low blows involved and stuff like that. And that's really kind of where I really learned to kind of like hold my own. Because, you know, you can't cheat in those kind of situations, like picking up something to look scary or throwing the first punch when catching them off guard. Or that's just not how it happens. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story of me sounding like a giant wussy. I definitely think you guys have a fuller picture of what my time in Australia was like, especially around the Asian gang, you know, kids. And I'd like to hear, is anyone, if I have any Australian viewers, I'd love to know if this gang is still a thing, because it was pretty popular. I think it was like the biggest Korean gang in Sydney when well, at least we thought it was when I lived there. So if you guys live in North Sydney, let me know, especially if you live around Chatswood. You know, at the off chances there's someone that lives there that's watching this video. Like, is Singhua still a thing? Are they still running around? Little punk kids with like weird blonde streaks in their hair trying to rob skateboarders for spare change. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I definitely want to do more story videos. I definitely want to play more Modern Warfare Remastered. I actually forgot how much I was obsessed with this game. And I know I was obsessed. This is like the first Call of Duty since like Black Ops 2 that I played like without making videos or streaming. I would just like get home and play this game. Like I never prestiged, because prestiging is for noobs. So you can see I'm a level 55 now. This is disconcerting, where all I do is snipe. I think I made these two classes last time just so I'd have them, but no, all I do is snipe in this game because it is absolutely beast. But yeah, please slap a like on this video. Please leave me some comments and some more stuff, some more story concepts or ideas or topics you guys want me to talk about. Because really at this point, you know, I kind of exposed myself in my last story video telling you guys I'm 33. I'm getting old. Like to recall these things from 15, 16, 17 years ago, it takes like something to jar my memory. And then I have to sit there and before I go to sleep, think about it for 30 minutes, try to remember all the little details. Like getting robbed and then making fun of me over the condom. Because they literally pulled it out. They're like, what do you need this for? Like, we know you ain't hitting anything. And I was just like, yeah, it's just in case. Final thought, I want to let you guys know, like during all these robberies, I wasn't scared, crying, or shaking. Like I was actually like, I thought they were my friends. I was trying to like be a part of them. I was like trying to like act cool. And like, if I was going to get robbed, I didn't want to look like a wussy, is how the mentality and the psyche of these like inner city gangs when you're like 14, 15, that's how it works. If you guys can relate to that, definitely let me know in the comments. All right, I'm going to get out of here before I ramble on for a whole nother game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Peace.